Yeah, I just had to quickly make some pancakes. I did put butter in, and I also added the fluid that you have in canned chickpeas. The fluid, it has a certain name. I'm not quite sure how it's called. Alfalfa or something. No, that's like sprouts. I put that in as well, just to give it a bit extra, I don't know, maybe it's protein or something. And then I added eggs and a decent amount of sugar and cinnamon and cayenne pepper and turmeric and cumin. And like I said, butter and oats and spelt flour, and then I just mixed that, a bit of salt, just like a pinch. And the reason I made that is because I feel like, you know, my heart needs something that I cannot give myself just by saying, oh, I'm really in love today. So what I do is to open my heart, apart from reading this book, is I assist my body, because it's still, I don't know why, but it's really hard to just have a lot of energy to love people. So I realized you have to have a lot of food that helps you with that. And some people, maybe they're fine, they can just go vegan, ketogenic in one day or something, or maybe they've done it all their lives, but I have the feeling I need a little bit more than that. Because maybe I'm not enough yet. So I need a little bit more than that. And talking I find quite hard. If I would just be silent all day, I wouldn't have to eat that much. But talking requires something. And plus, I'm eating the food of the people that pushed me around all my life, which also means I'm transforming that as well. I'm taking something from them and I make something else out of it. And that is how transformation works. Anyway, it also keeps me away from watching porn. So rather sit here and record this. And I think where the story ended, I'm not sure if I can just continue like this. Caterpillar green hats like the one the mayor's wife had were much called for, and so were pink bonnets. Then, the week before May Day, someone came in and asked for one with mushroom pleats, like the one Jane Ferrier had been wearing when she ran off with the Count of Cataract. You see, I wouldn't really do that. I mean, that's a one-time hat. Why do you have to make it again, right? It's like every hat should be unique. We're not here to copy others. We're here to find out who we are as individuals, and then use that knowledge to see what can I give, me, only me, what can I give to society to help people, you know, work through their depression, or be less miserable so that we can start planting trees again, right? I mean, that's the mission we have. And not to copy others because somebody ran off with Count Cataract and now you want the same hat. It's just stupid. It's not going to make you Jane Ferrier. That's just how it is. Anyway. That night, as she sued, Sophie admitted to herself that her life was rather dull. Instead of talking to the hats, she tried each one on as she finished it and looked in the mirror. This was a mistake. The staid gray dress did not suit Sophie, particularly when her eyes were red-rimmed with sewing, and since her hair was a reddish straw color, neither did caterpillar green nor pink. The one with mushroom pleats simply made her look dreary. Like an old maid, said Sophie. Not that she wanted to race off with counts like Jane Ferrier, or even fancied half the town offering her marriage like Letty. But she wanted to do something. She was not sure what. that had a bit more interest to it than simply trimming hats. She thought she would find time next day to go and talk to Letty, but she did not go. Either she could not find the time, or she could not find the energy, or it seemed a great distance to Market Square, or she remembered that on her own she was in danger from Wizard Howl. Anyway, every day it seemed more difficult to go and see her sister. It was very odd. Sophie had always thought she was nearly as strong-minded as Letty. Now she was finding that there were some things she could only do when there were no excuses left.
"This is absurd," Sophie said. "Market Square is only 2 streets away. If I run..."
And she swore to herself she would go round to Cesari's when the hat shop was closed for May Day. Meanwhile, a new piece of gossip came into the shop. The king had quarreled with his own brother, Prince Justin, it was said, and the prince had gone into exile. Nobody quite knew the reason for the quarrel. The prince had actually come through market chipping in disguise a couple of months back, and nobody had known. The Count of Cataract had been sent by the king to look for the prince, when he happened to meet Jane Farrier instead. Sophie listened and felt sad. Interesting things did seem to happen, but always to somebody else. Still, it would be nice to see Letty. May Day came. Merry-making filled the streets from dawn onward. Fanny went out early, but Sophie had a couple of hats to finish first. Sophie sang as she worked. After all, Letty was working too. After all, Letty was working too. Cesari's was open till midnight on holidays.
"I shall buy one of their cream cakes,"
Sophie decided.
"I haven't had one for ages."
She watched people crowding past the window in all kinds of bright clothes, people selling souvenirs, people walking on stilts, and felt really excited. But when she at last put a gray shawl over her gray dress and went out into the street, Sophie did not feel excited. She felt overwhelmed. There were too many people rushing past, laughing and shouting, far too much noise and jostling. Sophie felt as if the past month of sitting and sewing had turned her into an old woman, or a semi-invalid. She gathered her shawl round her and crept along close to the houses, trying to avoid being trodden on by people's best shoes or being jabbed by elbows in trailing silk sleeves. When there came a sudden volley of bangs from overhead somewhere, Sophie thought she was going to faint. She looked up and saw Wizard Howl's castle right down on the hillside above the town, so near it seemed to be sitting on the chimneys. Blue flames were shooting out of all 4 of the castle's turrets, bringing balls of blue fire with them that exploded high in the sky, quite horrendously. Wizard Howl seemed to be offended by May Day, or maybe he was trying to join in his own fashion. Sophie was too terrified to care. She would have gone home except that she was halfway to Cesari's by then, so she ran.
"What made me think I wanted life to be interesting?"
she asked as she ran.
"I'd be far too scared. It comes of being the eldest of 3.
When she reached Market Square, it was worse, if possible. Most of the inns were in the square. Crowds of young men swaggered beerily to and fro, trailing cloaks and long sleeves and stamping buckled boots they would never have dreamed of wearing on a working day, calling loud remarks and accosting girls. The girls strolled in fine pairs, ready to be accosted. It was perfectly normal for May Day, but Sophie was scared of that too. And when a young man in a fantastical blue and silver costume spotted Sophie and decided to accost her as well, Sophie shrank into a shop doorway and tried to hide. The young man looked at her in surprise.
"It's all right, you little grey mouse,"
he said, laughing rather pityingly.
"I only want to buy you a drink. Don't look so scared."
The pitying look made Sophie utterly ashamed. He was such a dashing specimen too, with a bony, sophisticated face, really quite old, well into his 20s, and elaborate blonde hair. His sleeves trailed longer than any in the square, all scalloped edges and silver incense.
"Oh no, thank you, if you please, sir," Sophie stammered. I'm on my way to see my sister." "Then by all means do so," laughed
this advanced young man.
"Who am I to keep a pretty lady from her sister? Would you like me to go with you, since you seemed so scared?"
He meant it kindly, which made Sophie more ashamed than ever.
No, thank you, sir,"
she gasped and fled away past him. He wore perfume too. The smell of hyacinths followed her as she ran. What a courtly person, Sophie thought, as she pushed her way between the little tables outside Cesari's. The tables were packed. Inside was packed and as noisy as the square. Sophie located Letty among the line of assistants at the counter because of the group of evident farmers' sons leaning their elbows on it to shout remarks to her. Letty, prettier than ever and perhaps a little thinner, was putting cakes into bags as fast as she could go, giving each bag a deft little twist and looking back under her own elbow with a smile and an answer for each bag she twisted. There was a great deal of laughter. Sophie had to fight her way through to the counter. Letty saw her. She looked shaken for a moment. Then her eyes and her smile widened, and she shouted,
"Sophie, can I talk to you?"
Sophie yelled, oh wait,
"Sophie!"
and then,
"Can I talk to you?"
Sophie yelled.
"Somewhere!"
she shouted a little helplessly as a large, well-dressed elbow jostled her back from the counter.
"Just a moment!"
Letty screamed back. She turned to the girl next to her and whispered. The girl nodded, grinned, and came to take Letty's place.
You'll have to have me instead,"
she said to the crowd.
"Who's next?" "Well, I want to talk to you, Letty,"
one of the farmer's sons yelled.
"Talk to Carrie,"
Letty said.
"I want to talk to my sister."
Nobody really seemed to mind. They jostled Sophie along to the end of the counter where Letty held up a flap and beckoned and told her not to keep Letty all day. When Letty had edged through the flap, Letty seized her wrist and dragged her into the back of the shop, to a room surrounded by rack upon wooden rack, each one filled with rows of cakes.
Ooh. Alrighty then.
And he said, alrighty then. Yeah, pop. Yeah, as expected, empty house. But it said, never expect anything. Oh, wait. Never expect anything
that is because you don't know, right? And if you think you know, and when you think you know, you have to actually realize that you don't know shit. And I think that's the hard truth of many of us, that the valleys of the mind and veils of the past, right? All right. I'm still thinking. I'm supposed to set this up. Yeah. Because I think I want to stand for this one. I actually thought I was doing art. And the question remains if I'm still going to do that. Because I made a bargain with myself. I said, today I'm going to do art. And I have. I've done art with my voice. Transforming anger into passion or something. And clearing my throat chakra so that I don't have to shout at people for what they did. Right? And that's my way of showing love, if you will, by rubbing it into their faces that I can do whatever I want and get away with it. Yeah. You know, that's roughly the idea. Now also roughly the idea is so to preserve resources, if you will, I like to I like to, because this has already been painted on, right? Now, you probably won't see what I'm doing here. Now, I'm not really sure what's going to come out now, or how much, for that matter. I'm just going to turn this around. Yeah. I just want to see. Okay. I've never painted here, it's interesting. Like, to me personally, it's interesting. Like, this is sage, yeah, I've said that already. It's just to open me up with sage. Someone has touched this. So I'm just cleansing it. So what I like to do is, when I inhale the sage, I breathe into my stomach as deep as I can, and I press out my chest. Now that can feel a little bit, because that opens the heart, which means it gets rid of tension, which means that energy that has been blocked can now flow. And sometimes I get really dizzy. I've already fainted doing this. I think it's in some of the recordings that are out there. I've been dealing with some stuff, I think like we all have, the valleys of the mind and veils of the past. Okay, so one way you can, because what is this, the valley of the mind? It's like ups and downs, right? So it goes up and just goes down. You know, maybe you experience this as mood swings. Yeah, and maybe people, they come to you and they say, well, that's manic depressive, right? It's like, or bipolar, when they say that people have different personalities, right? Sometimes they're really nice and sometimes they're not so nice. Well, that's just how everybody is, isn't it? Only some people really want to believe that they're sick, and then they go to psychiatrists or the doctors and then they say, yeah, you're bipolar. Or aren't you as well? Because who are you right now? Now you sit here and you act like you're a doctor. When you're at home, what are you then? A father? I would call that then bipolar. Because you have different personalities depending on the situation that you find yourself in. Right? A police officer is a police officer when he's in office. But when he's at home, he's not really a police officer, then he's a father. Right? And some people have problems with that. So I just, I like to be always the same, right? And I am always the same. But I have mood swings. Sometimes my mood swings more like, I'm angry. And sometimes I'm more like calm and relaxed. But it also depends on my environment. So you cannot just go and say somebody's bipolar or somebody's manic depressive. I've heard of a teacher once and he was manic depressive. They said he was. But a teacher has to deal with all kinds of shit from children. So, yeah, if he cannot do that, well, he's gonna go nuts over it. So let's just see, I don't really know where this is going. It says let it all out, alright? I don't know what that means. I can't scream at people. I cannot scream at them anymore because if I scream at people, they feel like they're in charge. I'm very good at screaming. I can scream at anyone if I want to. But the problem is, if you scream, you lost. And we're playing a game here, right? And you know what that game is? Yeah, what is that game? It's who am I? Right? It's like hide and seek, right? And what I realized, it's not just that I cannot scream or that I don't want to scream. It's that I don't want to give that to people. Because people walk around and they're like this. I'm the best there is. I'm the best there is. I'm the best there is. That's how people walk around, yeah? And anybody who comes, and because people play these little mind games with each other, right? They do like, how much do you love me? Oh, if you don't love me, I'm not gonna spend time with you anymore. Then I'm just gonna ignore you. Yeah, and then you stop, you start ignoring someone because he behaved really stupid. And then you start opening up to the person again. And then you start talking to them and you act like all nice. And then they suddenly think, oh, now he's back again, so I can continue being the way I was all the time because, I always get what I want. But the truth is, you're just being very stupid because you screwed up. When you screamed at me, you screwed up. When you came and you told me as a mother, I'm going to call the police to her own son, then you screwed up. You screwed up. Now you have to have the balls to go to the person and apologize. And I've shown many times in my life that I'm able to do this. If I screw up, I go and I say, all right, I screwed up, I admit it. I shouldn't have done that, whatever. But this time around, I know exactly I did nothing wrong. And everybody took a piss on me. Now they all banded together as the family and they all took a piss on me. And I said nothing. I didn't scream at them. I just let them have their go. And then I went back to my room and continued working. Yeah, continued drawing my images. And that means they're still in the place of, holy shit, what have we done? And it doesn't really matter if you understand what I'm saying, if you've heard the story or not. And it also doesn't really matter if you can relate to it. The only thing you have to understand is that sometimes people use you when you're too nice to them. So when you always give them the feeling, yeah, it's alright that you screamed at me, yeah, you know it's alright. But actually it's not alright. You're really angry about it. But because you think, oh, I have to be the good son or the good brother, you just pretend. You just pretend that it's okay. And then you just say nothing. And you just pretend it's okay and you just talk to them like nothing has happened. That's what a lot of people do. Well, that just brings you to Depression Town. Because a lot of people do that. Why? Not because they actually think it's fine. The reason they do this is because they're dependent on the love of other people. And because of that dependency, they rather have these people than nobody at all. Now, I'm in a superior position, you could say, because I don't give a crap what anybody thinks of me. And that includes people that think they're my family, right? I don't give a crap what anybody thinks of me. And so they cannot do this with me anymore. And they really hate that. Because they want to uphold this image they have of themselves, that they're always the good ones, that they never do anything wrong, yeah? Because as soon as everybody does something, anybody does something to them, they're like, now you screwed up and now I have you. And then I say, fuck you, because I did nothing, right? I just said, fuck you, I did nothing, I just sat down, I wanted to help, you guys started screaming at me and then you pushed me around, yeah? And when it came to the situation, my sister also showed me where she's standing. And that's just how it is, they're all cowards. And I can't help that if they're all cowards. Nobody of them could say, hey, maybe we treated him a bit unfairly. Nobody says that. They all think, oh yeah, he's just gonna come round and be nice again. But I won't do that. Because this, to me, just showed me what I'm dealing with here. It just showed me very clearly who the people are that I grew up with. And that's all I had to know for the rest of my life when I deal with such people. And that is, you can all kiss my ass, right? I don't give a fuck. I'm doing what I want. You're the ones that screwed up. And I'm going to keep it at that. I'm going to keep it at that level because this is where I feel safe about not tapping into their shit ever again. So if they have anything to say, cheers, right? I've tried being friends with you. I've tried playing your games. I'm done then with that. But for that, I also had to do it countless times. I had to play these games over and over again. Because every time we played the game, they made me feel bad for something I said. While they were the reason I said it. People can bring you to the point where you actually do scream. They can bring you to that point where you actually do scream. Just with their behavior. How they push you around all the time, how they come, they ask you stupid questions that they could answer themselves. Where they push the responsibility for how they feel entirely upon you. And then they make you feel like you're an asshole. And because you actually have a good heart and you want to help people and you want to be there for them and you want to say, why do you do this to yourself? At that point, you actually allow them to do it to you. And that's then when I started to step in and I said, leave me the fuck alone. Yeah? And that were really easy things. there were like situations where people used to ask me questions within the family, and I said, I don't want to answer you anymore. I don't want to tell you where I've been. I want to say nothing no more. And they got angry at me for that, which shows that they used me to make themselves feel better by listening to my stories, and then they could do something with that in their minds. Think it through, you know, it's a way to escape from how you feel yourself, so that you can gossip in your mind about what somebody else just told you, because that makes you feel powerful. Oh, he's giving me that. He's giving me that attention. He's telling me this. And then they can like, oh yeah, get off on that, on other people's lives. You know, that's what gossip is about. And that's what most people are like. That's what most people are like. And that's the one thing that I had to understand, that it doesn't end where you think it ends. It just continues. Now this is a very interesting thing, because I actually thought this was a cute dog, but I just realized it isn't. You know, because of course I also have to say to myself, how am I really? Am I really as nice as I'm trying to make myself look? Well, at least I'm not phony about it, right? If I spend time with people, I genuinely try, you know, I say, actually, I spend time with you because I actually like you. But if you're trying to do that and everybody else just gives you shit for it, yeah, and they spend time with you, but they secretly really hate you for something you did in childhood or whatever, or they just use you to make themselves feel better, you know, then I get to the limit of what I can do while saying, you know, I'm doing this because I'm nice. Because I'm not. Not in the sense that you want me to be nice. Anyway, you know, it sounds like really weird. It sounds like really weird. Like this image is taking a bit of a different shape than I thought. But I actually like this. And it hurts me. You get that? It hurts me when people treat me like shit. And so I say, no more of that. Yeah, and if you try to be nice to me now, like if I'm not hearing an apology, this is going to stay the way it is. Because I don't like to be surrounded by cowards anymore. Because I made that choice. That the me that was a coward also had to go. In that sense, you could say he no longer exists. And so, yeah, when people would ask me, but can't you understand how they feel? Yes, I know how they feel, and that's exactly why I know what helps and what doesn't. Because I've been there, and I moved past it. So I'm in a position where I can say I know what works, and I know what does not work. And because I know what works, I have to take responsibility for how people treat me. Because what I know is this does not work for me. And so the valleys of the mind and veils of the... I actually have to talk about this now. The valleys of... Maybe I should write this down somewhere. This is a very strange image. But I like this somehow, right? The valleys of the mind. So yeah, there's ups and downs. I mean, that's what you can say to that. It's very hard for me to only draw with left now. But this is how I feel in a way, right? it's like I'm super confused. So all I can say to you, there's a dog in this, but not really how I used to draw them. Like, I used to draw dogs in all kinds of ways. But this one looks a little bit different now. Alright, so the valleys of the mind. It's like up and down, right? I don't like these titles, if you know what I mean. Because it restricts me to speak about something. And maybe I don't want to speak about it. Because to me, this is also clear. I mean, I don't know if you get that. It's like speaking about, I don't know, anything. You know, it's like, why do I have to even explain that? This should be common knowledge. This should be common knowledge. And at this point, I also think, why should I even give you anything anymore if you never give me anything? Yeah, that's also me, right? It's like why should I give you anything if you never give me nothing? Oh yeah. I started to name these images. I like that. For whatever reason, I want to call this one. It's interesting. Call this one Lose Your Disguise. So yeah, it basically says, you know, I'm not your toilet paper. I'm not your toilet paper. I'm not your toilet paper, right? That's the next one. And that's how I have had people treat me now, as my toilet paper. And I'm not sure, right? Because probably I've been treating them the same way. But that you have to make up with your own conscience. But I think the moment it stops is when you realize how it feels like to treat people that way. Right? Because maybe I've just never been really shouted at. And so I never really knew how it feels like to be shouted at. Because I also shouted a lot at people in my life. And so partly I can say, yeah, sure, I mean, I did that as well, right? Right? I'm partly responsible for this situation because I've also shouted at people. So if somebody comes now and shouts at me, then maybe it was well deserved because I've shouted at other people in my turn, right? So now I give other people the chance to shout at me. But still, you also show them, yeah, you can do this, but it comes with a cost. Because they have to understand that maybe it makes you feel powerful to shout at someone, but they don't know how it feels like. Because it feels terrible. And you either let go of that, or you have to carry the burden of having done so for the rest of your life. And I just said, yeah, I'd rather let go of it. I'd rather let go of it. And that means you have to acknowledge that you've done something that hurts somebody else. But instead of going to them and saying, oh, I'm so sorry, you just give them time to sort it out for themselves, right? You just give them time to sort it out for themselves. And that's basically then drawing the loop back to, I think we just have to do whatever we feel like. And right now, I have to be honest, I don't really feel like talking to you, right? But at the same time, of course, it feels liberating because I'm talking about a topic that is very heavy indeed. It's like, this is like about shame also, right? This is also about shame, the topic. The topic is also about shame. Shame from maybe when I was supposed to be a big brother, but I was more like an asshole. But yeah, I mean, I had to carry my own burden. And people have to understand this. Right? It's like, it's not enough to just say your brother did something wrong to you. You also have to understand why he did that. Why he did what he did. That's how I feel about it. Because otherwise you're just going to run around and you're just going to feel righteous about what you did. But who's going to take responsibility for your actions if you judge others for theirs, right? If you're busy judging somebody for what he did, then you cannot understand why he did it, and then understand why maybe you can help someone simply by working on the way you feel about a certain situation. You can help someone by working on the way you feel about a certain situation. So maybe something happened to you in your childhood and you feel very angry about it. It's like what happened to me in my childhood, that I was forbidden certain things that I couldn't do. I was being told that if I'm like this, then I have to go to a school for special children. And now, as a child, I wasn't as rebellious, I think. So what I did was I just started to become very quiet. So I didn't fall off chairs anymore. I didn't scream into the classroom. I just started to become a little bit more quiet. And that, of course, while in later years, I also had to change that again. It also taught me a very valuable lesson. And that is, if you want to survive in this system, in this society, which is an empty word, by the way, means nothing. Because whatever social means doesn't exist. They say social means this, right? It's like social services. It doesn't exist because they created a meaning for a word, but nobody applies that. What they say social means is just forcing people to accept help so that they can take tax from you, right? It's like forcing you to yeah, I mean, it's like they do this here with the dogs, right? They say you have to pay tax for having a dog because your dog's gonna shit. And so they say, well, because we have to clean that, then you're gonna have to pay tax. And then you say, but I clean it myself, so why do I have to pay tax? Yeah, because that's just how it is, right? So you have to pay tax also for other people who don't clean their shit, which means that people push off the responsibility of cleaning after their dog because they say, yeah, I pay tax for that. You know, it's like paying tax for a service and then being an asshole about receiving the service, right? Yeah, because I paid for it. You know, I can be a real asshole now. Because that's what money makes out of you. It gives you the feeling you are worth more than somebody without money. But that just makes you an asshole. So how is that better, right? How is it better to go around and feed people that live on the streets some kind of food and then go back home to your apartment? How is that better than living on the streets? Like, how is that better? To use other people to make yourself feel better by helping them, well, they're helping you because you have something to do now. So you should just see it as we're working together. They live on the streets, I give them food. But you shouldn't feel like really bad about it because you're actually not really helping them. I mean, you're just giving them food, but maybe they want to die, and because you keep feeding them, they have to keep on living. It's like codependency or something. Yeah, they think they get your help, what they actually want is love. And to really help a person, you have to dive into the swamp with them. Yeah, can you do that? I mean, do you see how much swamp is out there? This whole place is a swamp. Like a really, really bad swamp that stinks. Like shit from millions of people. You know, energy has a smell. So, do you think, you see, I don't get that. How can you have -1 viewers? It makes no sense. I should stop looking at these statistics, but it's just interesting to me. Because as soon as I have 1 viewer, I just say to them, oh yeah, you found your way into my channel, and then they leave. It's really interesting. As soon as they realize that I realize that they're there, they just flee. Yeah. Anyway, I'm drawing this and I think it's done. So you see what I'm saying, right? It's like the valleys of the mind. Like you are in your own pit and then you go and you feed somebody that lives on the streets because in your mind that makes you feel a bit better, but then you're back home and then you can somehow feel good about feeding others, but at the same time, you're also gonna feel guilty. Because while you're at home watching TV, you know that they're roaming around in a cold night in the rain. So you can never really feel good about helping someone unless you really help them. And when you really help someone, then you're gonna feel the shit that they feel. Because really helping someone would mean you find a homeless person that wants your help, right? If they don't want your help, you can't do shit for them. But if somebody really would want your help, or would ask you, please, can you help me? Yeah, it's like in that movie, Detachment. Very good movie. There's this young girl and she keeps coming to him for something, for money, yeah, for sex, whatever. Basically, she comes for love. And he then says, come with me, right? He takes her to his place and then he says, go shower, eat something, you can sleep here, right? You can stay here. This is helping someone. The next day he comes home, she has a customer, a client, that she's giving a blowjob to. So now he has to deal with her shit as well. In addition to his own shit, which he has plenty of, because his wife died a couple of years back, so he has to deal with that, but he is a good man. And now he comes home and he's helping a young girl that ended up being a prostitute. And now he has to deal with her shit because she just brings strangers into the apartment and he says you can't do that no more. So now he has to take care of her and of himself. That's what it means to help someone, right? You can go around and give children money or candy, right? Some tourists do that. They go to some kind of African country and then they give children money, or they think they're helping them. Oh yeah, I'm white. Here, take this. Oh yeah, take it. How is candy helping anyone? How is money gonna help them? Because people shouldn't just get money like this. They should be taught to earn it and not just get it. And that's why a social state, what Germany considers itself to be, where you have a very good social system, basically produces people that are depressed. Because you always know you don't really have to work that hard, because the worst that can happen is what? Yeah, you're gonna land on the streets and then the state is gonna pay for you. That's the idea, right? Of a social system, that the state catches you. But they don't really catch you. They're not really interested in helping you as such. They just give you money because they can't actually give you love. You have to do that yourself. And that's why the new motto, is self-responsibility. And that's what's going to be the title, because now I also opened up to a whole new way of doing my art, where the message is already embedded into the artwork. And that is really nice. So I say, so I also keep changing as an artist, which is really interesting. You see, I'm just gonna name that now. New motto. Yeah. And then a double point, which is actually more like a double circle. And then I say self. Now I have to see that that fits on the page. Spawn. Because it didn't fit all, I say then here. Bill. Right, so the question I often have for people that I comment on their posts online on Instagram, it's like, what's your message? Or who are you, right? There's people out there who just post images of other people, like famous people. It's like a fan page. But who are you, right? They're just hiding behind others. Who are you? When we want to see the mind as something that has ups and downs, but what is an up and what is a down? You have uplifting thoughts, and you have thoughts which you may label depressive or depressed. Now this is a bit difficult, because I've never done it like this, that I wrote something and now I have to web something into it. Wow. So you have uplifting thoughts and you have thoughts that bring you down. Now, if somebody can insult you with a word and say, you're a motherfucker, or you're a cripple, or you're disgusting, or you're ugly. Some people are like this, right? So they want to have control over how you feel because they feel terrible, and then they come and they call you names. Well, the way Harry Dresden says it in the Dresden Files. The Dresden Files, the Dresden Files. Is sticks and stones may break my bones, but names or words can never harm me or hurt me. Just a second. Ha! Lieber Butcher. Is Mr. Daddy Butcher? Now that's a book I really enjoyed when I was reading it. And my English teacher at university said, well, this is really bad. And then he looked him up and it said, he didn't finish school. Yeah, well, most of the English I know, I just taught myself. They must have come in through the basement somehow, I said. She nodded. They'll work their way up, floor by floor. Kill everyone they can. You see, it's like, it is mindless junk. That I have to admit. Because this whole story, to me, you know, it's just a story. There's no deeper truth in it. It's just a story and that has no depth. In that I agree. I closed the circle, I gathered the power, and then, when all was prepared, when I held absolutely everything in my imagination so vividly that it seemed more real than the room around me, I slipped power into my voice and called quietly, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Yeah, so this book can somehow go. Right? So I'm sorting out a lot of things. Do I still want them? Do I not want them? So what I have is, I have a lot of books about, I used to have, no, actually that's not true. I never had a lot of books. Mostly I had things like Harry Potter. I bought some shamanic kind of books, but I never read them. Because the problem I have with this is that I don't have the feeling these books are very good. And the other problem I have is that they're not really up to date. And the other problem I have is that these books aren't really useful to living in the real world, right? It's like, I have books from maybe Carlos Castaneda, right? I didn't read them, I listened to 2 or 3 of the audiobooks. And then you have books from Antonio Villoldo or something. But these are really old, like, I think this guy is already dead. So what is it gonna help me? You know, if I want to learn something about pornography, he's not going to be able to teach me that. So whatever he knew about shamanism, it's outdated. Because what we know, what we need, is modern shamans that grew up in this world, that understand the way energy flows, and that can say, this is what you have to do if you want to start connecting with spirit, right? That's not just about, you know, wear white clothes. That's like, you have to submit yourself to a series of trials that life has in store for you. And one of them is being depressed. Because you either rise to the challenge of the depression, or the depression will hammer you into the ground. And that's then for you to decide who you are going to be. Now, I've been already faced, or death already visited me several times. And I realized that if I don't have a certain routine, if I don't eat certain things at certain times, if I don't do physical exercises, you know, in some form, I'm gonna die. I realize that. Because when am I dead? When I stop listening to what my heart says. You know, you don't die when your life is over or something. You know, your life is over when you give up. You can give up at the age of 60 and your body still moves around for 20 years. Just holding on to life. You know, this is not what it means to live. Because if you give up, if your spirit gives up, then it's over. And that's what it means to fight, right? You have to fight. Your spirit has to put up a fight. So you do things that make you feel things. Because only when you feel are you alive. Some people, they shut themselves off into some kind of bubble, right? Like, try that. Try this. I'm standing on this thing here. This is moving. Yeah, I'm standing on this, alright? Just try this. This is what I'm doing at the moment when I'm watching movies. Because I still want to watch movies, alright? I have weekdays. And on these weekdays, I want to watch a movie. And so I do this while I'm watching the movie. No, I don't sit on the couch. And why? Well, I don't have one. I sit there sometimes. But this is really bad for my back. And I realize if my back is bad, then what happens? I feel miserable. But I want to heal, right? So if you are right now in a valley, in a trough, in a depression, in a low point of your life, well, then you have to start hiking, man. Like, how do you get to the top of the mountain? You're hiking. And this is hiking inside of yourself and in spite of yourself feeling shit. If that's not a rhyme, you're hiking inside of yourself in spite of the fact that you feel shit. This means your mind or your will is going on a little journey. And it's going on the journey of, I'm a piece of shit. And it's going to come out of, oh wow, you know, I can pull my own weight. You know, and that means you have to learn a lot of things. Because you just woke up, my friend. And everything is new. And everything is like, oh my god. Oh wow, breasts. Yeah. But, oh wow, breasts means you're not going to be much of a man. Which means you have to learn that. What does it mean to be a man? It means to treat others with respect. And that includes you. Which means if you're sitting on a couch, you're very disrespectful to yourself. Right? Which means if you watch porn, you're disrespectful to the people participating in it. Because you're a coward. You're hiding behind a screen to watch other people. That's what a peeping Tom does. Only on another level. So yeah, no wonder you feel ashamed. No wonder you feel ashamed. So one of the things that I do to keep myself busy is drawing. This is like A2 or A3. I think it's A3. And I just draw whatever I want to draw on here. It doesn't really matter. Right? So this is in one way also standing up against AI. So my mission is to spread consciousness. And that means I have to be conscious of as many things as I can. And that also means that I have to do something. What's this? You see, this is really... I'm just gonna move on to the next. Sometimes you ruin an image by doing too much. And that's also the other message. When you're doing too much, you're overloading yourself. So one step at a time, right? Because this is also the veils of the past. And the veils of the past means you have a cloud of trauma cast over your eyes. And that's the matrix or Maya is also often referred to as the veil, right? The veil. Something clouds your vision and you go through the veil. But when you go through the veil, you realize that there are many layers to the veil. Like one veil separates you from... Well, actually not. It's just one veil. But it's more like a very thick veil. Wow. That's just truth. It's a very thick veil. And you're walking through it. You're stepping through the veil. But that's a continuous process. So the further you get through the veil, it's like, you know, let's imagine you're an embryo in the body of a woman, and then you're being born, right? It's like this. Yeah, and then wow, press. Okay? This is what being born feels like. But it feels like I mean, you can't really do anything about it. It's just gonna happen to you. I mean, it's not like you said somewhere in the universe, I want to be born tomorrow. I want to be alive. I want to be a little baby and learn how to walk. Yes, some people think that is like that. I don't know, right? All I know is suddenly I'm there. And also what I know is I actually didn't really remember anything. Like I know that I'm now, but who was I before I knew that I was? I don't know, I was just something making experiences, and suddenly I was like, wow! So there's the... So the way I see it from my own experiences, you are being born as a child, and that's just the physical. Here you have a body, whatever is in there, you know, that's in there. And then I had the spiritual awakening, which is something else, which is realizing that you are indeed separate from your body. And that you also create the world that surrounds you. So that's like, right, we are being born. You know, people say that being born is already the separation. I actually think it's different. Because I don't think we're actually born into separateness. Maybe I'm onto something, I don't know. Because I feel like what we are born, when we are born, we are just part of everything. You know, that is what the mob is, right? It's like the mob. It's like all of it lumped together. You know, it's like we're animals, humans are better, whatever, that's just beliefs. But we are just born into this soup of everything is the same. And you just have to do what you're told. And I have the feeling once I started to awaken, I started to separate myself a lot from everything I had been taught until then. And I realized I know nothing. What I've been told that I know is just bullshit. I've been told, you know, science figured it out, there's nothing to discover. That's like the Truman Show, right? You're being born and then, yeah, there's nothing to discover anymore, you know, don't bother. That's how you're being raised. You're being raised in this dome of fear where everybody's trying to keep you safe, and when you start to awaken and you realize, what the fuck? Like, what are you even trying to keep me safe from? Like, you want to keep me safe from death? Makes no sense. Like, people literally want to escape death, so they stop living. because their fear of death keeps them at home in their comfort zone, and they just cling to people. And I just said, what the fuck? Like, the more conscious I became to what this shit show is that people have created, because I don't consider myself as part of the rest of humanity that lives in this kind of bubble and says, we are so smart, we are humans, we are so much better. Because that's already, you know, that's okay, that's then separateness. But they see themselves, they try to see themselves as separate from everybody else. Like, they want to be, I'm so much better, I don't make mistakes, you have to worship me, kiss my hand. Yeah, and then the top of this charade is then politicians. Yeah, and the one who's the highest is like the most corrupt, is like the president, right? I bribed more people than my competition, than my competitor, and that's why I'm now the president. That's how it is. Sad but true. Or maybe not sad, it's just true. And everybody tries to pretend, oh wow, he's really good, he's really good. Yeah. So, yeah, what's separateness? Because what we are being separated from is basically nature, our true self. So what we are being separated from in this kind of society is truth itself. Because we are literally born into the lie of being humans. There is no such thing as a human. They're just beings. And some beings have different jobs than others. The job of humans actually is to take care of nature and to live in harmony with nature, because humans, they walk upright, which means they actually channel energy. They create like a forest field, which is like the masculine and the feminine side, the yin and the yang working like this. And then you go through reality or something and you create an atmosphere of harmony. That's the Garden Eden, which is something that happens inside. The Garden Eden happens inside and is not something that comes after death, whereas in a way you have to die to get there, but not in the sense of I shoot myself, but in the sense of I have to give up my feeling of I'm better than everyone else. And that's what some people call the ego. Some people call that the ego, but that's just a word. You have to start humbling yourself to realize that you are not in control here. Because there are so many factors that shape the reality that each of us perceives, that how could you be solely responsible for that? Maybe I'm responsible for the reality I have in this room and I can all invite you to it. If I would be standing on the stage, I could fill the whole room with that vibration as well, right? But what I cannot do is, or maybe I can, if I focus intently on other countries, I can actually send my energy and my vibration and my consciousness there as well. So you can have the whole world conscious, present in your mind, but usually it is being reduced to the people that you have come into close contact with. And these people you are now connected with. And that means if I think of a person in a loving way, I send them love. That means if I think of a person in a negative way, I send them love. And now if you sit around and you think you hate people, well, maybe these people hate you. And the only way to change that is to send them love. And love not in the sense of, oh, I love you, but more like, hey, I see what you're going through. I don't want anything to do with you at the moment, but I'm just gonna love you from the distance, you know? Just do your own shit, do your own homework, because I'm doing the same, right? Yes, so the valleys of the mind. It's like you have to restructure the landscape of your mind to change the way you think, because although, yeah, you are not your thoughts, but in a way you are. You can distance yourself from your thoughts and just blend them out, but the better way is to actually start listening to them. Because some people, you see them, they're like, "Ah!" You know, I've been there. I just wanted to get rid of thoughts. I just wanted to smack my head in. You know, some people, they get there. So why does that happen? Because the thoughts are there and they're trying to get rid of them. But in order to get them, you first have to listen to them. Of course, when these thoughts come from a place of shame, then you have to deal with that shame. You have to deal with the fact that you are torturing yourself for certain things that you have done in your life. And because you're trying to run away from that, right, you don't really know that that is the way it is. So the way to deal with it is by acknowledging what has happened, looking at what has happened, and then making your peace with it. And yeah, that is a scary place. That is indeed a scary place. And so I'm just drawing a giant eye. Yeah. And what that says to me is, yeah, it's the all-seeing eye, all right? You see truth, and you may speak it. But truth also has sharp claws, not just in the sense that what you say can hurt others, but also in the sense that, you know, truth is kind of like a raging beast. And lies are more like sorry little blobs that came into existence and that try to remain in existence by boosting themselves up with words. Right, so you can make yourself appear bigger simply by raising your voice and by shouting, right? But the fact that you're trying to do this already shows that you're afraid. So some people think that screaming makes them feel powerful, but actually is a sign of weakness. In a way, right? Not only, but it is in a way. It's like masturbation is a sign of weakness. So So the question remains, the veils of the past. Yeah, I've said that already. It's in one way lies. But also knowing that, yeah, now I lost it. Doesn't matter, I was thinking about it and then I lost it. Maybe I want to call this one, I like being alone. Right? I like being yeah. I just want to have it here. So one thing is for certain, that you have to make a lot of choices in your life. You have to make a lot of choices in your life if you want to live a life that is true. When you say, no, I like this, I like that. And sometimes you have to say, I don't like this, and I don't like that. Yeah, and that's a challenge. Right, so when you draw these images, you can literally think of someone else. You can think of someone else and then you can just put down your pencil and just see what wants to come out. And then you give up control. Because I don't know what this is going to be. It doesn't mean that it's going to be these faces, they often look a little bit weird. But I mean, it doesn't really matter. And sometimes it's a bit difficult to know what you see in this. But it may help you to open up to whoever it is you're drawing. So I'm just trying not to control this, right? I have a person in my mind. So this is a method, if you get it. You have veils, like you have valleys and you have mountaintops in your mind. And there might be people that you feel like very painful about. You know, people that their suffering is just torturing you. But then you're doing their suffering, but it's their suffering. So you cannot take that away from them. You know, some people, they even want to keep that. They want to keep their suffering. It's like a treasure to them. If you try to take that away, you're basically destroying who they are. And the question is, do you want to have that kind of responsibility? Because when you take that away from them, because you can't see it, then you can never live your life. Which means that some of the valleys that you are living in, which you see as a low point, it's just something you have to move away from. Yeah, you just have to move out of it and continue to your own life. And that's difficult. Knowing that some people have been, like maybe your parents had a rough childhood and you feel like you want to help them, but you can't because it's their life. If they don't say, I want to change this, then they cannot change it. And that's a very fine line. And it feels heavy to simply talk about it. Because that's one of the problems I have myself, is just simply let go of things that happen to other people. But yeah, what else can you do? I mean, I've tried telling people they can change certain things and they don't want it. They say to me, just let me be the way I am. All right. So what, I'm supposed to just not give a shit anymore? Because that's what they're saying, you know, give up on me. And sometimes that's what you have to do. Because that's what I realized. It's either I give up on them or I give up on myself. So what I'm doing instead is I believe in myself and I say, I think they can do it as well. So I just let them do it because I didn't really want help from anyone. I just wanted to figure this out by myself. And that's a really tough one. But because I've been doing this, I've grown incredibly and I've learned a lot of ways that help me to just push through. But there's a lot of, like, my heart is just like, it wants to open, but I'm trying to stop it. So how is this one called? That's interesting. You know, if you feel spite for other people, this is like repressed anger. You know, sometimes that's what I mean, right? If people go to others and they say, I'm going to help you, then that's actually repressed anger often. I see that in a lot of people, they say, oh, come here, oh yeah, oh yeah. You see that sometimes in children, how they are with animals. It's a lot of anger. If you like hug something so closely and then do like this, it's often like fear and anger, which is something you may not really want from a person. But yeah, a little bunny can't really say anything. And a dog also not really, because you're the hand that's feeding the dog. And then you keep it trapped in that kind of love and hate relationship. It's like push and shove and push and shove. And at the end of the day, that's how the dog will always feel. And that's how the child will always feel. But a human, or a human being, or whatever, can think its way out of it. It can look at all the trapdoors that are inside the mind, and then it can find ways out of it. And that's the beauty about being a human, that you have been given the ability to choose, and you have been given the ability to change things if you want to. But the thing you can change the best is yourself. And that's what I've discovered. So this is now a new phase of my life where I say, you know, I'm just gonna let everybody be as stupid as they want to be. And I'm just trying to change something about myself. And that's then where I see, how can I help others? Well, I help myself. And helping myself in that sense is producing content. Because that's my yeah, it started as a therapy, and now it's simply, you could say it's some kind of a habit, right? It's simply the habit of pushing through. And it's so interesting that people are really afraid. Like, they're interested and they find it exhilarating, but it also really scares them to listen to what I have to say for more than 20 seconds. Because they probably know, right? So what is this image called? Sometimes it's really hard. Yeah, I mean, what I see in this person, there's a lot of anger, because the lip is curled up like this. The nose to me looks a bit like a penis, and the eyes are really greedy. And that's a lot of men for you, that just walk around and they just use women, because women are soft and stuff, to get rid of their frustration and their anger. And I know how to do that. I've done it. I've been taught to do it. And I had to change. Because I didn't want to do that anymore. Running around angry. And then hoping a woman will come and love me. And then I can have sex with her. Because that's not really how you want to start a family, right? But that's how a lot of families are being started. It's just people coming together, having sex, to run away from themselves, to make themselves feel better by using another person. Well, and then they end up being pregnant. You know, that is cosmic intervention. You know, if you can't do on your own, we'll give you somebody to spend time with. And now I'm in the peculiar position that I am actually fine on my own, and I'm learning to do very well on my own. But I also chose to learn it so that I can grow out of every obstacle that life has for me without actually relying on anybody else. Now, there are still things which I don't really like, and that is, in its essence, this system and how complicated it is. Like, it really feels like this system makes itself so complicated that they don't actually want you to be free, which is of course true, because when you're free, you're unlikely to pay tax. Yeah. And that means, because the reason why we pay tax is because we're afraid. And when somebody is liberated, well, they won't pay tax anymore. That's why politicians don't really like psychedelics, because psychedelics override your thinking patterns. If you work with them in the right way, they can override your thinking patterns. They can open you up to love and healing and all that kind of stuff, but they can also create further trauma. And that's why it's important to not just take them like most people and think, I'll let the psychedelics do whatever they want to do. Well, in a way, yeah, sure, that's how it works, but you have to be responsible with this kind of stuff. If you just smoke weed every day, well, you're gonna harvest some pretty hard to swallow consequences. It's like you're gonna get very weak, and because psychedelics also open you up to things, energies, and all kinds of things, and that means if you go to a rave party and you take mushrooms there, mushrooms are the gateway to the underworld. You don't know what kind of shit is running around on a rave party, what kind of substances these people take. There is another level to life that has nothing to do with, yeah, the materialistic thing. When I draw this, this isn't just the image of a person that I thought of. This is an energetic imprint of somebody that I do to transform the trauma of another person. This is an image of the way I see life. It's like me alone, seeing truth, doing my own thing, and then a lot of other people standing around together. Maybe that's my family, I don't know. But I'm okay to be alone, and I have a lot of hands to help. You know, that's the way it is. I can do a lot of things and I'm better on my own. I don't know what that means. I don't know to what extent I have to be alone in this life. Yeah, I don't know what that means. I don't know if there is a woman around the corner. You know, I don't really know these things. I'm trying to get there, but what I know at the moment is that I have no idea. I have certain things on my mind which might come true, and I align my choices according to what I would like in my life. But there's no guarantee that that is going to come. And that's why it says no expectations. If I expect the best and it doesn't come, or it takes a long time to come, I will run short on breath. Short on breath also means trust and all that. Because if you see what I'm doing, I've been doing it since 2021. I started with my podcast. That is now 3 years since I've started to raise awareness. And I thought people are going to send me money, and then I thought people are going to buy my book, which I published in 2021. And then I started with YouTube at the end, somewhere along in 2021. I started also with YouTube, and I started creating all kinds of crazy videos. And I've been doing that ever since. I wrote books. I started doing these paintings in the beginning of 2022, and I've been doing nothing else, and now I'm doing live streams. So for 3 years, I have been putting myself out there like mad, and there's a lot of potential for I'm just gonna stop. I was often at that point, so I know a lot about the peaks and the low points in your mind. And I learned how to work myself out of the low point in my mind through diet, but also through thinking patterns. Because sometimes I just sit around and I just hear the voices that are inside of my head. It's like, you know, I don't know, somebody hates you. Yesterday I heard a voice that was really painful. It said, I despise the way you live, or I despise the way your life is going. Wow. Or I despise the way your life is in general. That's like me in a nutshell, you're shit. Phew. I know how this is called. It's called Let Me Use You. And that is a very painful thing. But how I work with this is because I would have worked with this in a very different manner. Now imagine you're in a situation where you fell in love with, let's just stick with my situation. You fall in love with a woman, all right? Give me just a second. you fall in love with a woman, and this woman is so afraid of love by now that she just keeps pushing you away. Yeah, it's quite a strange situation, right? And so sometimes you get to that point where you think about, what could this person say to you? If you would meet each other, let's say the woman really loves you also. Let's just assume that for a second. But she's so afraid to show you because she's afraid that if she shows you how much she loves you, that you're gonna push her away. Because that's just her experience from life, and I understand it. I've made the same experience. And now let's say you would meet and you're very afraid of this, and then she starts shouting at you, and then she says, I hate your life. That's like, bam. That's like kicking the balls. All right, I hate your life. That's like one of the worst things somebody can say to you. I hate your life, right? I hate your life. But if you know something about reflection and projection, the only reason she would say that to you is because she's saying it to you. As in, I actually hate my life. As much as I'm here and I like what I'm doing, I cannot help but also hating it. So that's also something I feel. Because I hate being alone in this room, but I see that it is necessary to help me to spread the message of let's be all conscious together, right? What's so bad about being conscious? Well, all we have to do is face the shit that we have been doing all this time. We have to face it that science is not our savior, but our doom. That our greed for power is making us sick. Yeah? That's roughly the way it is. I really want to use my right hand. But that one is off limits now. That's the masturbating hand, right? It's like the male suppressor. That's the masculine side. And every time I start to feel something, that side wants to go in here and do this. Because it's suppressing the feeling, it's suppressing the emotion. So that's what we as humanity have to face. That we've been suppressing nature. Right? I'm suppressing my own nature when I'm masturbating. Because I'm much stronger than I think I am. Because thoughts, in that sense, they cannot really tell you who you are, but they can tell you who you think you are. Because thoughts can create experience. You can create in yourself the experience of, I'm a really bad asshole. And that's how you feel about yourself. And then because you feel ashamed of having such thoughts, you use, yeah? Instead, you could just feel what needs to be felt. Is the way I see it, right? And that's the really hard part. You know, I always bring up this example when I come to this point of Voldemort, that if he were to put his bits and pieces of the soul back together, he would have to feel remorse for his crimes. And that would be likely to destroy him. Yeah, it certainly would be incredibly painful. But if he's not doing it in this lifetime, somebody else is going to do it for him. Yeah, that's also true. So what is this? It's like penises. Why? What I really like drawing is breasts. Because as soon as I draw some breasts, I feel like sexual energy. Because breasts are so beautiful. Wow. But it's just enough, you know, if you're really horny, I'm telling you, if you're a really horny guy or a horny woman, draw what makes you horny. You can actually have an orgasm by drawing breasts, I'm telling you. You can literally have an orgasm by drawing a penis if that's what excites you. And you know what shows that to me? That this is something that I want in my life. Because I like breasts, right? I like these kinds of things. I like it. So why would I deny myself these things? But now I also realize that it's not just the breast, it's what belongs to the breast. You know, it's the spirit that is part of those breasts. You know, it's not enough to just be breasts, because breasts is just like a hand, right? It's not enough to just be a hand. It's the breasts of one person. Yeah. So that's a very delicate position for me to be in. Because if you feel like there's only one for you that you've met somewhere, that's a very tough fucker. Because you don't know if you're ever gonna meet that person again. You simply don't know it. All you can do is trust. You don't know if this person ever wants to be with you. You have no idea. All you can do is you can keep sending them love. And maybe you keep sending them love, and they just go and use that love to be with another man. You get it? This is what then really loving someone means. You give them love no matter what, and they can do with that love whatever they want. And if they want to be with another man, then you have to accept that. But you love them anyway. Now I can ask myself, what does that mean? You know, if I just keep loving everyone, but nobody ever gives anything back? Well, what does it mean? It means that you will become very good at loving people. Even people that give you all the reasons in the world to hate them. Now, just because you love someone doesn't mean you have to have a romantic relationship with them. You can simply love them by seeing them as the beautiful person that they are, right? And this way you send them love and you feed them and nourish them from a distance to a certain degree. So the more you focus on another person, the more they will feel you. But you should make sure that your focus is pure, comes from the heart, and is like a warm feeling. So if you think of people in this kind of cold, I'm gonna kill you, they're gonna get that. And that means they're gonna want to be away from you. So if you want to keep people away from you, you keep sending them those thoughts. But this is torturing you as well. Because they're probably gonna feel the same way about you, which is you send them something, they're gonna send it back. You both hate each other. Now what I realized is I don't have to be with everyone to love them. Some people I rather like to love them from a distance. Some friends I just said, you know, leave me alone, cheers. I just blocked them everywhere, but I still love them in my heart. I still keep them in my heart. Which is essentially the road to, yeah, if you want to call that enlightenment or something. It's what Maharaji said to Ram Dass, never put anyone out of your heart. Because if you put them out of your heart, it's like giving them the cold shoulder. And the thing is, I can give people the cold shoulder just when I'm physically present, just to keep the distance and to set up boundaries. But in my heart, I can still feel warm feelings towards them. Just non-sexual, just like, you know, I acknowledge your existence, that's all. You know, I don't pretend like you don't exist, although I won't really talk to you. But, you know, the feelings I have are absolutely non-sexual and just like, you know, here you go. That's it. I don't do more than that. You know, I don't go around hugging people. I don't go around touching people. All I have is that I make sure that the way I feel about other people is more like, I acknowledge your existence, right? That's as romantic as I allow myself to be. Of course, when I would want a woman to feel different about me, I would also give her different energy. You know, the kind of love you give to a woman that you want to bear your children, because you think she is the best there is for me. So you have to find ways to show her that. And you can even do that from a distance. But for that, you also have to be certain that she's the right one. Because if she isn't, then you will keep focusing on somebody else. Right? And still there is no guarantee. I'm telling you, there is no guarantee for anything. You don't know what's going to happen. You know, it all is in the stars. You know, you say you do this and then what's going to happen, I don't know. You know, I don't know what's going to happen. All things could happen. None of them have happened yet. At least not to my knowledge. And that's the really difficult part when you're walking through your life, right? And you're always on the path. You may think I still have to find my path. But the truth is you're already on it. You're already walking it. And that means you just have to work with what is available. And so you can say, yeah, at this moment, what I have available is myself. And then you work with that. What can I give myself? All the things that you thought other people should give you, you now simply give it to yourself. That's a challenge. And like I said, you either rise to the challenge of climbing or you stay in the valley all your life. I said no to psychedelics for a long time just to learn how to deal with myself. But also, to me, anything that you ingest, be that whatever food you eat, it's all kind of psychedelic. Yeah, so whatever you put in your body is going to have effect on it. So now I want to name this. And I want to name it says let go of control. Yeah, so masturbation is a way of controlling the way you feel, right? You think you feel terrible and then you masturbate because you want to feel good. But that's an escape, of course. That is an escape. And now I have trouble to deal with certain things in my life because nobody gives me credit for anything I do. Like I'm just there and that's just how it is. Okay, sometimes, all right, people say to me, thank you when I do the dishes. But with this kind of stuff that I'm doing here, I don't get a lot of credit. I'm just doing it because I think it's gonna come sometime. And that is a challenge because It's like loving a woman that just treats you with silence. It's empty, but only if you allow them, right, to push you away. And that's why I just keep coming on the internet. So you can say, I come onto the internet. And then it says, I come onto internet. Yeah, and what that means is basically it's sexual energy transmutation or transformation. It's not just sexual energy, but sexual energy is the raw energy that then comes up and then you feel some kind of emotion, whatever it is, right? Now I can bring these emotions and I start crying or something. But instead of crying, I can also draw an image. Instead of shouting at people, I can record an episode, I can make a song. And that's when you say, I come onto the internet. Art is in the form sexual intercourse, but just with yourself. It's a creative process. This is what sexuality is about, isn't it? It's about creating things that previously weren't there. So doing crochet has a sexual feel to it. Cooking also. It's just like shaping energy. You take energy and then you do something else with it. And so the valleys of the mind and veils of the past, right? You deal with the trauma of your childhood or of the past, and then you transform them by looking at what really happened. And then you create truth, basically. Well, the truth was already there, you just brought it into the light. And even if nobody understands it, but just by drawing these images, I already transformed. And now I feel tired. And one new way of dealing with feeling tired is when I do this. Because if I feel I'm tired, actually what it means is energy flow is being restricted. And what I can feel is my lower back. Now doing this really trains my lower back. And then I can massage it at the same time. And then the energy keeps flowing. Wow. So I can do this and hold it and hold it and hold it. Right? Because what I realize is if I get tired up here, my heart is closing or something down here is closing. And then the energy doesn't flow. This is a difficult exercise. That's what I feel, right? Because you have to work through your shame. You have to work through your trauma by overcoming it with your will, basically. So if you want to get from the valley to the top of the mountain, you have to start hiking. And this is hiking you can do without even leaving the house. Simple exercises. You don't need this balancing thing. But you can also stand on a pillow if you want. can also stand on the ground, and then you just do this as long as you can, as high as you can get it. And then you train your legs and your lower back. This trains the right side of my back, and then the other one, the left side. So if you do right, you have to do left. I've been drawing a lot with my right hand, now I'm drawing with my left hand. And what I can produce is basically the same thing. There's no difference. You just keep it up like this. Wow. Yeah, you can also hold yourself if you feel like your leg is stronger but you cannot balance it. But it's better to just try without touching anything, right? So that you learn. The goal is to bring the leg up until here. Yeah? Like a Shaolin. This is training the mind. And now I feel less tired. Because even though I stand, there are lots of things happening while I talk, right? Energy keeps flowing. It enters always into the root. Yeah? And then it goes, I think, right? So it enters through the root. And that means the energy that will start flowing is connected to your ancestors. And that may be heavy energy that you are trying to keep away from you because it feels dirty, because there's shame connected to it. All you have to know is these are just feelings. That's it. You are not your emotions. And that's why when fear surges through me, all I have to do is this or this, right? That's what you do when you're afraid. You keep the energy flowing so that when everybody else shits their pants because of, I don't know, pandemics or something, and they run around and buy dozens of packages of toilet paper, and you stand there and you do this. And they say, hey, that guy's crazy. And you say, that's your fear talking, man. Because if you would understand what I'm doing, you'd be doing it as well. And that's basically all you can do then. And this is new now for me, because normally every time I would feel the way I just felt, I would watch porn and masturbate. Now this is a new way of engaging with myself, and I have to say that I like it. Because when I watch porn and masturbate, I feel ashamed. And I didn't do anything. Now I use the shame that comes up in me, or the fear, and what do I do with it? I strengthen my body with it. This is energy. And I'm using it. I like that. I really like it. Whoa. Yeah, just make sure you don't fall and hit your head on something. Yeah. All right. So to conclude, there are certain ways you can do this. Right? Terence McKenna said, when you're doing, for example, mushrooms and you start losing it, you feel like you're about to crack or shit your pants, you can simply start singing. Hey, hey, hey. Right? Just like this. Hey, ya, hey, ya. That's already enough. You just start singing so that you can hear yourself, because then you can center and focus on the voice rather than the fear. And that, of course, also means you have to overcome your shame of singing. or your fear of being heard. Because imagine there would be some kind of revolution or open rebellion, and you stand there and the police comes with weapons and sticks. How would we be able to remain quiet? Well, we would start to chant. We would start to sing. And then we have to practice, and that's why I practice opening my throat chakra so that I can maintain this sound. So I have to have a lot of strength, mental strength. Right, something like this. So if your throat is always closed, then this will be very strenuous. There will be a lot of healing happening here, and your voice will change when you keep doing this. You will get a deeper and darker and richer voice. And not like this anymore. This is generally what comes from speaking truth and clearing the throat chakra. Yeah? That is the way I feel about it. The way I feel about it. So, the Adam's apple is also about truth, right? Yeah, you eat from the tree of truth, and it's called the Adam's apple. You have that right in your throat. And everybody I see is just lying about everything. They start by lying about the way they feel, and they lie when they talk to other people. They're just constantly lying. And that's just something you gotta change. Anyway, I feel like I've said enough. Yeah. Do whatever you want with this. It's out there. Oh, that's just something you gotta change. Anyway, I feel like I've said enough. Oh yeah, one more thing. Do whatever you want with this. It's out there. When you feel tense and tired, you can actually do this. Open your mouth, stretch your jaw, and then draw out your yawns. This is energy that's stuck. You do this. Oh, wow. This actually helps against depression, against feeling heavy, having no energy. So if you do this, you also have to understand what this does. If you do this, you start training your lower back, which means that energy is starting to flow up. It's starting to come up. And then it might be that it hits another barrier here. So you're still trying to keep it down, right? Because you're holding on to the energy. Because you think you have a reason to hold on to it, because it's a genuine feeling that should be there always, right? Some people think fear should always be there, so they hold on to fear. So they always stay down there. Yeah, and if you keep it down there, you're surely going to masturbate because there's more energy that you can suppress. So it will seek for an outlet. I don't have to go fighting. If I just start doing these things, because here is a lot of anger. And this is connected to hearing and also massaging your throat gently, finding pressure points. It's just like picking a spot that is a bit painful in your throat and then holding it. Then you realize how the pain radiates to the back, because that's where fear is, in the back of your neck also. And on the other side, right, it's like, okay, and then really enjoying the yawning. When you really enjoy yawning and you just wait, this is how I did my cannabis ceremonies, or I do my cacao ceremonies, or whatever I do, right? I also did that with mushrooms, which is not a recommendation. You have to say that. Everybody is self-responsible. But if you take that and you lie down on a mattress and maybe you do listen to relaxing music, and I get to the point where I start yawning. Sometimes I feel a bit nauseous, and then energy starts to flow and I start yawning. It actually opens the heart, and then tears start flowing out of my eyes. Sometimes even stuff comes out of my ears. Liz, you can do this. This is the best thing. Sometimes I spend time with people and I was just yawning all the time, and then they said, "What are you? Are you tired?" And I realized, no, it was you. I was just channeling your energy. Very, very negative. It's very heavy. But you can transform that into bliss by yawning. Yawning is bliss. Wow. I actually do feel tears, and my nose also starts to open up. You can stretch out your tongue. Open your jaw as far as you can. Wow. This is freedom. And then suddenly you have more energy again. Then you start drawing. You see, and it says like, let it all out. Just let it all out. See, I don't have to take anything. What I ate beforehand was, I made a pancake. I made a lot of batter or dough, however you want to call that. Yeah, and so the body gets rid of emotions sometimes through physical cleansing. Yeah, tears, a lot of sadness, but also anger, tears of joy, whatever. Energy starts flowing. First it has to get rid of old stuff. And the body does that. It cleanses emotions, sometimes through defecation, sometimes through something else. Yeah, the image, I've been having a lot of, like, I love pregnant women. I really love pregnant women, but there's only one woman that I really want to be. Right? Cannot love every pregnant woman. It's not your place to love every pregnant woman. You just focus on one. And then you love her and you keep her safe from other people that come to touch her. Like, don't. I mean, I'm not saying that to scare you. I'm just saying that to raise your awareness. A pregnant woman is not to be touched by everyone. If you as a husband do that, that's completely different. But other people, you have to keep your wife safe, right? You have to make sure you keep her safe. But at the same time, it's also difficult because you don't want to give her the feeling that she should be afraid of being touched. But that is just something that should be clear. But people forget this because they're selfish, right? They want to touch a pregnant woman because pregnant women are in love, right? They radiate love. And then others come, they want that because they're greedy for it. And that's why we have to keep our women safe from greedy eyes. That's how I'm going to call this image. It's called greedy eyes. That's also why I like to cover myself up. And that's also why women should cover themselves up. It's okay if I occasionally take off my shirt. You just have to realize that greed does exist and jealousy is very negative. Yeah, so we have to keep our women safe and ourselves, and that you can do only when you're conscious about what's actually going on. That's what I feel, right? And that includes family. Like, I hear stories of women that have children and the family just barges into the room. It's like, what the fuck are you doing here? Like, they have a right. No. That's just something where you have to make sure to get rid of them as best as you can. And that's why it's also like to just keep them away. I mean, the way I see it, a woman that just gave birth should be with her husband nowadays, right? We're talking about nowadays because people have no respect anymore. Yeah, back in the days it would have been different. People would have known. But nowadays people forgot, so they don't know. Which means the way I see it, I would, you cannot control your wife. So it's best to have a wife that trusts you. And you should then say, my wife just gave birth. There's at least 3 months where we won't see anybody. 3 months. I'd rather have 1 year. Just the 3 of us then. Or 4, or however many come out there. Where you say just us. Because this time is unique. And I've had enough time with people who think they're family. I don't want this anymore. But yeah, people are addicted to each other in families. They're literally addicted to each other. Well then, let them be like this. You know, I'm good on my own. Which also means, you know, I want to be a bit selfish with my wife and my children. I don't have to keep them away from everybody, because that's also bad. But I mean, I can say I've waited long enough. I've waited long enough. So I can be a bit selfish if I want to be. And that takes courage to say no to others who say, but I want to see my grandson. Why? You have no rights to see him. You can see him when mother and father say, now it's the time, and then we're going to invite you, and then you can come over. But you're surely not going to touch our child. Because I see how people touch children when you give them free range over them. You just kiss them, they press themselves into them, they touch their cheeks and their feet. This is a little deity, it's a little god. Just fresh out of the shell, and you're just using him to make yourself feel better. Sorry, not in my world. That's very hard. You can't be overly strict, but you have to be. Because people are really disgusting. And I really mean that. People are like angry wolves, pretending to be saints. They're gonna tear you apart, and I've seen what that meant. I've been in that position many times now. And that's why I'd rather stay in here. Because that dog is just a representation of how they all are. Yeah, and then they say, you know, stop barking, but they actually like it that the dog barks. You know, that's how they lie about everything. And I know that. Yeah, and because when they say it, they don't really mean it, the dog knows that. Then they have to say it over and over again. And then they start getting angry at the dog because they don't mean what they say. It's like people say all kinds of things, but they don't mean them because they don't take themselves serious enough. They're not really serious about living or anything. So, who's gonna take you serious if you're not serious about what you're trying to sell here? Yeah, you could say, what am I selling? Am I selling love? Am I selling love? What am I selling? Right? What is my message, specifically me now, Christopher? Well, maybe I'm selling love, but sometimes I'm selling hate. You know, selling means whatever you're trying to make look good. But yeah, I have emotions and they're there, and people have hurt me, but I also have hurt people, right? So this image I call Eyes of the Many, and what that means is there's always multiple perspectives to whatever is happening. You know, I can see what's happening from my perspective and I can be the victim. And then I can see it from the other person's perspective and suddenly they're the victim. Which means we all are nothing at all. Right? So if I can see myself from all perspectives at the same time, then that's omnipresence. then that is oneness. That's what we mean when we talk about empathy. But the question is, why do I have to be in that position all the time? Why do I have to be an empath? Why do I have to be empathic? Why do I have to have the ability to love? Well, I don't know. I don't know. Why do I have to make these choices? Yeah? And say I'm going to stay at home. Yeah, and I'm going to seclude myself from everyone to heal. Because I'm doing it for them, but also for myself. Why do I have to make these choices? Yeah, why don't they have to make these choices? And then the answer is because I can. And because I take responsibility for myself. Because I want to. They don't. Not fully. You know, they have a problem, they run to their mother. They have a problem, they run to their wife. Well, I have a problem, what do? I draw something and I talk for 2 hours on the internet. 3 hours. Probably make it. There are so many things that happen all the time. And now I see the upload is struggling. That's probably my reason to stop the stream. I was just waiting for a sign. And now it just turned yellow. It's like, oh, there's my sign. I'm just gonna turn it off. Yeah. Now it stays green. That's a problem. Turn red now. I want to have a reason to stop. Yeah. So what's it gonna be? Red or green? You show me. Show me what I have to do. I want to know what I have to do. Because right now I'm just standing here, right? I don't even know what I'm talking about. You're opening up to yourself. You're sending yourself love. You have to be serious about this. Because if you're not serious about it, then it will tear you apart. Yeah. Like millions of chickens. And then we're gonna sell it to you as chicken McNuggets. But it's really millions of chickens that we mash together. Like, it's just like, I don't know what. Like, really disgusting if you think about it. What we as humans do to animals. You know, no wonder that we're all depressed. Like, it's like we're trying to tell ourselves, I don't know, what the Nazis did is really good. Yeah? And that's why we're doing it to animals now. Yeah. Good lesson. Good lesson. Really good lesson. But if you don't learn from the lesson, you're just gonna keep repeating it. Yeah. So, just think about it for a second. What we did here in Germany, or not we, but what people did in Germany, everybody agreed it was terrible. But there were some people who loved it. Yeah? Who loved the feeling of power, of just like hacking things to bits. Just really easily like finding a very structured way to kill. And these people started to apply the same principle of what the Nazis did, and they applied it to what we call animals, which are living beings. And then we said, well, animals are not really alive. Animals are just animals. They don't really have emotions. You know, they're not sentient, they're not smart, they're not like us. So we can just do to them whatever we want. So when somewhere in Africa, an alligator or a crocodile, alligators are in America, of course. Well, let's say an alligator, a 7-meter long alligator, or let's say a 5-meter long, which is long enough, eats a human that was stupid enough to stand next to a river and got eaten. Then humans come and kill the alligator just to show it, yeah, now we got you. Why? Yeah, because now the alligator has a taste for human flesh. But the human was in nature. So the human has to abide by the laws of nature. That's just the deal that you should understand. No, we are above this. We are better than this. And so we can kill millions of animals just to show nature that we can control it. Yeah. Now, just give me one tsunami and I'm going to show you that nature cannot be controlled. You can never control nature and you can never control your own nature. And that's just how it is. You can just accept it and then start working with it and realizing, all right, I've tried controlling my nature through masturbation, and that meant I'm basically killing myself. But nature itself cannot be killed, because it will rise again from the ashes like the phoenix, and even when whatever humans are gone, life will continue. And I don't think that we're just all gonna die. I think that just some people are going to wake up and change things and just going to keep raising awareness, and other people are going to realize, my God, what have I been doing? But in order to get there, we as individuals has to first rise. We have to rise as individuals to grow as humanity. So first of all, it's like, okay, truth, like hard-boiled eggs, right? One boiled egg. Feep one boiled egg. Oh, what's the answer again? Feep one boiled egg. How do you write egg? Or something like this. Just write it down and boil it. But it will taste like paper. It's not really a movie I can recommend, but I liked it when I watched it. It's called Guest House Paradise. Like, feep one boiled egg. This is how one boiled. Also interesting that having boils and to boil an egg. I'm just saying to the stream, just give me one reason. Give me one good reason. And I'm going to end this. Yeah, this has to have quotation marks. That's going to say here, just write it down and boil it. Maybe I'm going to get into comics. Write it. This is actually a great idea. Down. I'm writing with left. I've really trained this, man. This is getting rid of my imbalance. Boil it. And what cannot be missing in this is, but it will taste like paper. This is one of the movies that showed me that being stupid loses its touch after a while. You can be stupid sometimes, but if you're stupid all the time, it just gets sad. And that's what it is. If you really want to get a laugh out of people, at a certain point, everybody realizes how sad it is. You know, it's like some people, they like to fart to get people to laugh. And maybe you get pleasure out of farting, but after a while, it's just sad. But it's... And that's why I say, I want to keep, you know, I want to take this a little bit more serious than whoever came before me, right? It will taste like paper. Of course, sometimes you have the hope that somebody will know what you're talking about. But it's very unlikely. I don't think it's a very famous movie. But basically, you can turn anything into art. I mean, you can take whatever you know of the turtles and turn that into art. Mama. And if you think about what eating eggs actually means, it's quite disgusting as well. I mean, it's basically a baby. You're just boiling that to eat it. I mean, there's this image of a witch eating birds and eggs. There's something nasty about it. So you see how this is difficult, because stuff is coming up and it doesn't end. So when I have nothing to do anymore, I just keep digging and more stuff comes up. And I'm telling you, it doesn't end. It just keeps going. Like, once the emotions are flowing, you feel when they stop flowing. And when they stop flowing, this is what I call a depression. It's a low point. It's like, means there's a trough, and this trough it keeps filling up. It keeps filling up with emotional shit. It just keeps coming, and you're in there. So you literally have to keep going to get to the next peak. And then you have to go down into the valley. But by now you know how the game works. So you're not gonna stay in the valley and wait till the emotional flood suffocates you, or the karmic predicament bullshit show. No, you just keep going. The flood comes and you're like, oh yeah, I'm already halfway up again. Oh yeah, didn't see you there. You see, and this is how you keep hiking. And you can only do that when you're serious about hiking. When you're not really serious about hiking, then you won't really hike. You know, I'm serious about emotional hiking. And that's why at the moment I'm doing this in here. Okay. Enough? Enough. All right, I'm just gonna wait till the last words have been spoken. What? 3 hours and 30 minutes. All right, I'm just gonna wait till the last words have been spoken.